Does anybody want to ask me a question?
I want to tell you something. Thank you so very much for the Patanjali book. Yeah, Demystifying. I read it in just one sitting. It was so brilliant because I don't think anybody can explain anything like that with clarity.
You know, it was,
yeah.
I wrote it in 3 weeks.
Amazing.
So you read it in one sitting, I read it.
Okay, the next question. I'm going to ask that to you again. I asked that when I met you. Okay. Yeah.
I thought, how can I finish my life without writing about Patanjali? He's the exponent on yoga.
Yeah.
But everybody's scared stiff of him, and I was too. And then, with Master's help, and memory of being with him and things that he had said to me, I was able to do the whole thing.
Amazing.
And even as I went forward, I kept thinking, I'll never get this book down, I'll never finish it. It's too difficult. Then suddenly I would understand it. So I'm glad that I've made it simple.
And profound.
It's profound and simple.
Absolutely.
But I'm very happy with that book. I'm glad you like it. You like it. I hope you are.
Thank you.
I love it. Swamiji, because of you, we read these very, very difficult books. I wouldn't have been able to read Patanjali myself, but I read your Raja Yoga book, which is Patanjali's, and how easy you made it. And I'm inspired to read Patanjali.
I don't know why, but Master helps me to write things very quickly. That biography of him, I wrote in 3 weeks also.
So you saved me from asking the next question, how do you do it?
Really, I just ask him and it flows.
Can we ask you and will it flow? I would love to write. I'm a writer, I think. I can write. You remember I gave you that picture of the swan where
Yes,
I said your honey lace voice
and
I want to
back
write
of my
more.
chair there in
Yeah?
Pune. It's beautiful.
Grazie.
But that's not a question.
She asked Swami that if she were to write, and would you help her? Would you also? Would it flow through her as well?
Through you, like Master helps you.
I have to think that it's also your job.
Okay.
He doesn't flow through everybody.
Okay.
So it must be something to do with my openness to him.
If I'm open to you?
Well, if I am a free channel, I hope I am, then yes.
I think it's working already.
It can happen that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't like to push myself forward. I'm nobody.
Well, I can push myself.
Well, okay, but don't push yourself.
To your grace?
The biggest job on the spiritual path is getting rid of this ego. And we are not important in this world. God is everything. And the more we push ourselves, the more we pull ourselves away from Him. The road of life is too narrow for both God and you. You can't walk it together. So the whole thing is just give it up. It's not worth protecting anyway. That's where all your pains come from. All your suffering comes from the ego. All your misunderstandings, everything wrong in this world begins with your ego. So we have to get rid of that.
Here's a question in the back.
Swamiji, when are you giving us a community in Bangalore?
Yeah, my question
I would love to see one start tomorrow.
It's so nice to have Haridas ji and Roma ji here. It's so wonderful to just go to them and just draw on them. It was so nice to have the monks coming every month.
I'm so glad they're
But we had to wait for them. Now we don't have to wait, right? They're right there.
But you know we need one down here. And you are perfect material. Master said if you live in a village with 1,000 people all competing, each one has 999 enemies. If you have all friends and cooperative, each one has 999 friends. At Ananda, we're all friends. We all work for each other, we help each other, and it's possible. You can't believe that from a book, but when you see it happening, you can believe it. So we need examples like that. We need one here in Bangalore. Get some land out in the country if you can. And also there's a very great depression coming. And if you have land, you can grow food there and bypass the depression. Really, we're not coming to an easy time right now. And America, I think, will start. The American dollar, America is now $16 trillion in debt. There's no hope for it. It will have to print money. And as it prints money, the value of the dollar goes down, 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 down. So it'll affect the whole world. Get land where you can grow your own food, build your own homes, and be peaceful. We have two rules at Ananda. One is people are more important than things. Don't put anything ahead of the needs of people. And the other one is yata dharma tata jaya. Where there is dharma, there is victory. And not only victory, but success of all kinds.
Swamiji, what is the true definition of Jivan Mukta? I'm really confused about, in so many books there's so much of variation.
What is the true definition of Jivan Mukta?
A Jivan Mukta is somebody who's completely overcome the ego and entered into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. As I pointed out in Demystifying Patanjali, there are two samadhis. The first is conditional, and when you enter that, you can come back. And it also can be the last great test on the path. Not that I'm warning any of you as an urgent need to think about, but think of keep it in mind. Because when you've achieved oneness with the infinite and then lose it, you may think, I, the infinite. It's not that. He's the infinite, and you merge in him. So you have to give up this thought of I. When you've completely given it up, then you go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you remember all your past incarnations. When you were a pirate, when you were all sorts of different people. And when you can see that it was God who played all those roles, because he's playing your role right now. It's the ego that makes you think I'm doing it, but he's really doing it. That's why even when you commit a serious pap, serious sin, give him the blame for it. You did it through me. He likes that. No, he likes that. Because then you give him the power to make you better. So, he did it anyway through you. When you overcome all your past karmas, then you become a Jivan.
And we won't come back again.
Oh, no. In fact, there are other levels to reach before attaining it. You can also be freed from the earth plane and still have to slog it out in the astral plane. And then there's the causal plane.
How do we know that we are spiritually progressing?
When you feel no ego. That's the most important thing. Because God sometimes works through you in different ways. But when you feel that He is doing everything you do, say God is the doer. And never accept that you've done anything well. He did it. When you can really free yourself from that, then you're doing it. And of course, the more love you have, the more bliss you feel. These are signs also.
Swamiji, that's my next question. After Kriya, when we are sitting in the silence, can we speak to Divine Mother? Because that's the happiest, that's when we feel the happiest, after you finish your Kriya.
She said once you're finished with your Kriya when you're meditating.
Then just talk to Divine Mother.
Can we talk? Yes.
Swami? Yes.
Remember, I'm nearly dead.
Okay. This is okay, decibels. Swami, yes, you're saying when you get rid of the ego, you reach the Nirvikalpa. But really, what do you mean? How do you mean getting rid of the ego? What is this ego that we are talking about? How do we get rid of every bit of it? What are we talking about here?
Well,
please?
when people insult you,
Okay.
think.
Okay.
When people say that you're no good, Thanks. Don't take anything as important to you. When somebody says you did a wonderful job, just let it be. Say God did it. When I was at a conference in Virginia many years ago, and there were some people they were on the lecture circuit, so they were more famous than I. But it was about starting a new community, and I was the only one who had started a successful community. Anyway, I invited all of the teachers out to dinner, and I was paying the bill. They completely ignored me because they were talking to all these famous people. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. When you can feel like that, then you're going well. When people talk to you very angrily, be calm. Whatever comes of itself, let it come. These are ways. They're not the final way, but they're ways. Everything you do, feel its heat doing it. When you eat, feel that God is eating through you. There's a lovely story of a saint in India who was a devotee of Krishna. And I forget his name right now, but I know it perfectly well. Anyway, the gopis used to go across to bring cheese to Krishna. And one time the Jamuna was in flood, and they couldn't get across. And then they finally remembered this. Do you remember what?
Vyasa.
Veda Vyasa, okay. And they said, could you please help us to get across the river? And he said, why do you want to go? Because we're taking cheese to him, Chama, and to Krishna. He said, Krishna, all I ever hear is Krishna, what about me? But he wasn't saying it with ego. And so they thought, well, we've got to feed him if he's going to do the miracle to help us cross this river. And so he ate and ate and ate. But he was completely stuffed. He somehow carried himself to the river. He said, Jamuna, if I have not eaten anything, divide up and part. And they said, what a liar. And even the river believes him. And when they reached Krishna, he was so stuffed with his food that Vyasa was giving him that he couldn't come out. And he said, oh, that fellow across the river has fed me so much I can't eat any more cheese. So whatever you do, feel that God is doing it through you. Yeah.
Swamiji, how do you develop devotion?
What?
How do you develop devotion?
Who's that, this question? You? How do you develop devotion? One thing is how you think of God. In the West especially, they tend to think of God as an angry God. God is on your side. We must understand that. How do you have devotion to somebody who doesn't like you? He wants you to get out of this delusion. And yes, he gives you tests, but he wants to save you from this. So he loves you much more than you can love him. But you understand that his love is infinitely greater than yours for him. Think of him again how you think of him. The father is usually a little stern. Mother is, even if you make mistakes, she's forgiving. So worshipping God as Divine Mother is a safer bet, let's say. It's easier to love God that way. I love God as my Divine Mother. You know, I had a very interesting experience. Many years ago, I felt that Divine Mother wanted me to go back to India. And I had enough money to go and spend 2 months, and then I had to come back. And as I was driving into San Francisco 2 weeks before I was to leave, my car threw a rod, and it was obvious I had to get rid of it. And I thought, well, what shall I do? I had to live up in the mountains, I need a car. But if I spend money on a new car, I won't go to India. So I said, Divine Mother, what am I going to do? And I didn't get an answer. So finally on Friday evening, I put money down on a good used car, $1,000, plus the return that I got for the old car, made about $1,800, and it was enough for me to buy a car. And I said, Divine Mother, if you really want me to go to India, you're going to have to reimburse me. You can talk like that to Divine Mother, you don't have to plead like that. And I said, you reimburse me. This was Friday evening. Monday morning in the mail, I got a check for $1,000 to me personally, not to Ananda, and it said, use this as Divine Mother wants you to. How many people in America think of God as Divine Mother? Very few. So that was an answer to my prayer. And I was able to go to India, and I had the car, and I've had many miracles from her. One time, because all the work that I do for her and for Guru. And I finished a long job. It took me 1.5 years to finish this course of lessons. Then I wanted to go to a tourist spot in California, known as Carmel by the Sea. And I wanted to celebrate with Divine Mother. But I don't take any royalties for my books. I don't accept a salary. And so whatever money people had given me, it was not that much. And I thought, well, the rooms were very expensive, and I thought, well, yeah, but I'm not going to go to nearby Salinas, which is a dump of a town. I've come here to celebrate with Divine Mother. I said, Divine Mother, I'll pay for the room, and you'll just have to see to it that I have the money to get home. And so I took out my wallet to pay the man. He said, don't pay me. I said, well, I'd rather pay you now. Meaning I didn't know if I'd have enough after 2 days there. He said, no, don't pay me at all. I'll just write you down as a travel agent. I said, why? I don't know, I just like you. And so I went to dinner in a restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant came and sat with me and wouldn't let me pay for my meal afterwards. And in many ways in my life, I've seen Divine Mother does take care of you. And if you really have faith in her and love her, she'll do it. So think of that. And another thing is just keep talking about her. To develop devotion, the more you talk to him, the more you feel his love pouring into you. It isn't you who develop it, it's he who gives it to you.
So, I want to ask the Jews, when they're doing the Kriya, the whole idea is to realize the God within you, yeah? And so sometimes I'm a little confused. I would still like to see the God without, yeah, my Guru, and like we're saying, the Divine Mother, the form, the one with the form. But ultimately, isn't it about realizing the complete light within you?
You
So
know,
is there a
Master
conflict?
said,
Yeah.
if you pray to the Divine Mother or any form of God,
Okay.
always see in those eyes infinity. When you pray to any form of God, even Guru, think that he is just a doorway, like a funnel, and you open up onto infinity. So remember, behind that is that infinite consciousness. That's what you're going to become. Ramakrishna, when he used to worship Kali, and Totapuri came and tried to get him to go beyond that. And Kali herself told him in a vision that I sent him to you so you'd learn this. And finally he had to take a sword mentally and slash Kali in half to go beyond that. So ultimately, Advaita is the only truth. Yeah. Advaita is okay because we're in it, but use it as a stepping stone to go beyond it. Yeah. You have to not only love God, you have to become God. Okay. Any other questions?
Swamiji, what was your biggest challenge on the spiritual journey?
What was your biggest challenge on the spiritual path?
Doubt. I used to have doubts in past lives, and I couldn't accept anything until I really figured it out. But it's been good for me as a teacher. Because no matter what doubt anybody has, I've already had it.
So how do I overcome doubt?
Love is the only answer.
Sorry?
Love is the only answer. You can answer 1,000 questions and still have to come up with another 1,000. But when you love, this was my big test on the path. I began to doubt my guru. Because he would write in something that it means this, and the other it means that. Can he make up his mind? I finally realized that it didn't matter if I doubted him or didn't doubt him, I loved him. And that took me past this. Really, without love, you cannot overcome doubt. That's why Sri Yukteswar, as a saint of wisdom, said you cannot put one foot in front of the other on the spiritual path until you do the heart's natural path. There, otherwise you're like a man living next door to a very famous restaurant. He knows its menu, he knows it's the most famous restaurant, but he's not hungry. There has to be that hunger for God.
Swami, how did you handle difficult people in your life?
How did you handle difficult people in your life?
Let's say I've had my share. It's been first of all, you have to be patient. Second, you have to think, he needs help, can I help him? But in starting Ananda, and this is a very important rule for you all if you begin a community, don't work with the negative people. After a lot of effort, you may bring them from minus quantity up to 1 plus 1. If you turn your back, they'll slip back again. Work with the positive people. And I had lots of trouble in starting Ananda. Now it's easy because we can say this is what Ananda is. Join it or leave it. But then we didn't know what Ananda was. I knew what it would be, but they didn't know. And I had a lot of hippies and a lot of very, very negative people. One time I had to say to them, I had to call them all together. I said, listen, I don't insist on many things, but when I do insist, I'm the founder of this community. I want you to listen. If you don't listen, I'll leave this place and never look back. It doesn't matter to me. And on that day we lost 50 people. That was good riddance. But I have to admit that I waited until I knew I had the majority on my side. I wasn't foolish.
But you can't avoid negative people. So you just can't avoid negative people. They're all around us.
She said there's no way of avoiding negative people, they're all around us.
It's impossible. Yogananda used to say if there are two negative people in a class, they'll always smell each other out. So, no, the world is full of them. Mix with the positive ones and work with the positive ones. And if people are negative, well, I've had my share of that. Just take it. Just be patient. I know there are 2 times when I was a boy, and the bully is much bigger than I wanted to beat me up. One of them in England. I came out of the arts room upstairs and we were alone, and he pushed me, so I pushed him back. I knew what the consequence would be, but I'm not going to be a doormat. So that was his excuse to leap on me and begin pounding me like this. And the upperclassmen came in just at that point. Oh, nice fair battle, and they backed out. They were afraid of him, and I was a lowerclassman. But I just figured, so he beats me up, there's nothing more he can do. He always gave me about wide berth after that. I never gave in to him, and he never. And another boy, I was in America I was young there, I was 13. I weighed 107 pounds. He weighed 300 20 pounds, 330 pounds, 230 pounds, 230 pounds. He was 15 and big, but also much bigger than I. And he could not stand me. I think he thought of me as an insult to the American flag. I had a British accent. Anyway, one time we were seated at the table and he kept telling what to do, and I just ignored him. Finally he said, "Boy, am I ever going to get you." And he came up to my room and burst in and threw me on the bed and pummeled me. There was nothing I could do, so I just sat there. And he said, "I'm going to throw you out the window, I'm going to throw you out the window." And the window was 3 stories up. Well, if he throws me, there's nothing I can do about it. And finally he gave up. He got tired of hitting me, and from then on he left me alone. And people in the corridor said, "Well, why don't you call for help?" Because I wasn't afraid. Just take whatever happens and don't be afraid. So I think that's the answer to all threats. If people want to shoot you, let them shoot you. There's nothing you can do about it. So whatever comes of itself, let it come. Live for God. So anyway, both those bullies left me strictly alone from then on.
Swamiji, talking about harmony, suppose there are 2 situations that you face. One which would be the harmonious situation, and the other which you would want to do, but which may not be harmonious. So
you'd have to give me an example.
I'll come back.
But I will say this, that if my principles were at stake, I never would sacrifice them.
Yeah, that of course, given that the principles that we live by, there's no question about sacrificing.
Then I try to think in terms of what's best for them. I never think of myself. That's another example of getting your ego out of the way. I've always thought, what will be best for the community, what will be best for the people. I never think what's in it for me. If you do, then you can't get that principle right.
So Swamiji, is it okay to sacrifice one for many?
Not necessarily. Sometimes, but many times it is. For example, Mahatma Gandhi said, somebody asked him, what if a punk person comes to your village and starts shooting everybody? His answer to that was, I'd offer myself first. That's not a solution, because he could go and shoot everybody else too. So you have to be, there's need for not capital punishment, but in the sense of killing, but people have to be incarcerated if they're going to do damage to other people. There have to be times that you have to be very strict with people. And if one person is damaging many, better that one person suffer, not many people suffer. But this is all part of the question of ahimsa. There mustn't be an anger in your heart. There mustn't be a wish to hurt. But you sometimes have to hold a person down. I know one time a bunch of boys attacked me, and I was stronger than they. So I held one down, brought the other one down, held them down. And in that way I didn't hit them, but they couldn't hit me. One time I was in the sick rooms in England. There was a school in England, and this boy said to me, "You dirty foreigner." And I said, "Well, maybe you're a dirty Englishman." I mean, it's a question of whether he's had a bath lately. And he laughed at me and tried to beat me. Well, I was stronger than he, so I just held him down. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't have any malice toward him, but I held him down, and he was spitting up at me. But finally he had to give up, and I let him go. You don't want to do it with malice in your heart. You don't have to reply with hatred if you get hatred. Reply with kindness. And I know this one man in SRF, Jerry Torgerson, he used to say, "I don't know why I hate you, Don, but I hate you." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry, I don't hate you." Master had put me in charge of all the monks and he couldn't stand it. But these things happen. The thing is to keep your own heart pure. That's the important thing. But how you act, sometimes you have to hold people down. Sometimes, as I said, you have to put them in prison if they're going to kill lots of people. So, you had a question.
What is the meaning of being dispassionate?
It means that when you see a TV advertisement and everybody's jumping up and down trying to sell this kind of soap or whatever it might be, you don't get excited like that. When things go, whatever happens in this world, just take it. Be calm about it. Calmness is a very important virtue. And if people shout at you, just be calm. Dispassionate is not, I mean, not getting your passions involved in anything. You want to throw this out and give me a nice hot one? Thank you. Nice for your diamonds. I like to see it.
Swamiji, with reference to your meeting with Satya Sai Baba a few years back, you had mentioned in the book that he had given you a panacea for all ailments. Could you? Satya Sai Baba had given Swamiji a mala which could cure any disease.
Yes.
Could you just explain more on, how it worked well for you and things like that? Because it was a meeting of two yogis, and you had mentioned how he materialized particular.
He materialized the mala for me.
Yes, yeah.
And gradually it fell apart. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I mean, he's not my guru, and I thought it was very nice of him, but I didn't know what to do.
This was from your book, Meeting with the Saints.
Visit to the Saints.
Visit to the Saints.
Quoting from your
Visit
book.
to the Saints.
Yeah.
He said that in that you've written that mala could cure any illnesses or anything. Was that, did that,
I've
did you
never
have any
found that to be
experience with
true.
that?
Okay.
I just don't know. I am very touched that he called me to him and talked to me a bit. And, I was going through a lot of suffering being thrown out of Asara. He said, "Don't feel bad. It's just suffering, just jealousy and selfishness." And so that was very reassuring to me. But I have my guru and I sort of stick to that. In fact, not sort of. But I'm not fanatical either. If somebody finds another, that's fine. I don't say you have to follow my guru.
There's a very interesting point in that book. Nothing.
That was the point.
Yeah.
May I ask you another question, Swami?
Oh, you might as well. You're here.
Lovely, so I'm going to bring it on. You know what? I was wondering, SRF, when you're talking about that, Swami, how can they hurt you after being with somebody as great as Paramhansa Yogananda and doing the Kriya, being in the spine? How can they not get it? How can they?
It's up to each individual. Many people came to Master and left him. Your openness and your awareness. But I do say that it's not a bad thing to go to saints. You need good company. Saints can uplift you. The only thing is, when they start trying to make you convert you, then I leave them. Unfortunately, too many so-called saints have tried to convert me. I went to Muktananda. He tried to convert me from Yogananda. I didn't like that. I left him.
Swamiji, please tell us about your time.
What? She's about to say something.
My question was not quite that. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't explain. I was just thinking, how could all the SRF people be jealous or hurt you because they also were with the master?
You come to a master, you don't become the master.
Okay, right, good answer. Okay. But a little bit of goodness, should I rub off?
They were jealous of my creativity.
Okay.
That's an easy thing to understand.
Okay.
But master could have put good sense with them.
What is that?
But she's saying Master could have put a good sense in them.
I think he put the bad sense in them. I think he wanted me out of there so I could be creative. Everything I have done in my life began after they threw me out. While I was there, I could never do anything. So it was necessary for me to be on my own.
Okay. Swamiji, I just wanted to thank you very much for having initiated Ananda, because I started in SRF and I couldn't progress, and Ananda found me 1 year ago.
Master told me many times, not just once, he said, you have a great work to do. I feel that he has empowered me to continue his legacy. And I think that Ananda is his legacy.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I think so.
Swamiji, today in the interview you mentioned that we have to do humanitarian work too. So what kind of humanitarian work?
Humanitarian work to me means showing people how they can find happiness inside. I mean, you give people money and they spend it. Give them food they eat, and by evening they're hungry again. Give them jobs, that's better. But they can lose the job. You have to give them happiness and then they're always happy. If you can give them those attitudes that will help them to come closer to their own self inside, then you're giving the most important. So humanitarian service to me means helping them to realize their humanity as children of God. I'm not so interested in feeding.
Swami, one more. What is Krishna's relationship with the gopis?
It's mostly allegorical. You know, Master said that the gopis were really incarnated rishis. So they could explore that, demonstrate that relationship of human love all those gopis were married. And these stories they're mythical.
Okay.
They're not true.
Okay.
I was just remembering one today, which was when Radha and Krishna were walking in the forest, and she said, I'm getting very tired. And Krishna said, would you like me to carry you? And she said, it felt so good. So she jumped on his back and he disappeared.
Okay.
She would pop in the mud. And then she said, I'm sorry, I understand now. And love should be impersonal.
Okay.
But all those stories have deep meaning. They're not really, they didn't literally happen that way.
Okay.
Swami, what's the secret that you're always radiating joy around you?
What is that?
What is the secret that you're always radiating joy around you?
What is the secret that you're always radiating joy around you?
Well, I think that's, you can attribute that to Master. Blame him. No, I do always feel happy in him. And there you go.
Swamiji, sometimes we are...
Behind the yeah.
I'm sorry. She's always telling me I'm filming things, but at least I just put it on my own clothes instead. Narayani is my caregiver.
She's beautiful. Swamiji, can you tell us something about the Brigu reading you had yesterday? Yes, sir.
He didn't think it was worthwhile to charge me for it. Is that what you're right?
He gave you, as I said, your life is an open book. Basically, you have served all your life, and this is not, his life is an open book, and his autobiography and part, that's what.
He said that I have done my Guru's will. Everything, he's pleased with me, that's the most important. He said I would attain freedom.
Any advice for finding the right life partner and things like that?
Any advice for finding the right life partner?
You know, the best thing is to pray to God. Ask God to send that partner. It's something everybody craves in his heart.
Yeah, that's what I...
Because we all have a soulmate, and we want to be drawn to that person. Usually people do not marry their soulmates, and so they go through a little hard time. But that is the ideal. Pray to God that he leads you to marry.
Thank you so much.
Master said you have to meet your soulmate even if she's on another planet. And you can unite in vision. It must not, however, be sexual, if it's your soulmate. So...
Then the gender doesn't matter, does it?
What's that?
The gender shouldn't matter, does it? The marriage is
it
just...
It doesn't really. Because you can be either one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just fair.
But there's... Yeah. It's a deep subject, and I'm not sure I know much about it. But it does intrigue one, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, you know, I have to say this. This is so, wow, you, looking at you, the way you are. I have my guru, I think I mentioned that. I mean, maybe you remember Shirdi Sai. He was just a fakir. But look at you, you are this very classy, sophisticated, you know, English-speaking person, but you are here in the code, you are the saint he was. And it's so wonderful God created you the way you are, because you can reach out to people, we understand you.
Well, we've been in many bodies also.
Yeah.
I suspect I've been in an Indian body for many times.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But I was born in the West to help the West.
Yeah.
But Swamiji, you are helping us a lot.
I'm grateful for any good that I can do for other people. What people think of me does not matter. But if I can help them, and when I see somebody looking unhappy, I like to shoot him with this buckshot of my smiles and make him feel better. I want everyone to feel happy.
And the way you write, and the way you have written all the poetry and the music, that is just, it's incredible, Swami.
Well, it's incredible to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's happened.
It's amazing. Who can do it?
I would ask Master and give you, I would say I want a song that says this, give it to me.
Could you sing something for us, please?
Sometimes I have dreamed of this song.
Yeah.
That little song with little Kathy, do you know that song?
Yeah.
That came to me in a dream.
Wow.
But also more serious ones, like God, God, God.
Yeah.
I put Master's poem to music, and it came in a dream. So many things have come that way too.
Brother, could you sing one for us, please?
What do you want me to sing?
Okay, what can you sing? What do you want? Anything
Can you play
Love
is a Magician?
Oh wow, that's how could you read our minds? That's what we wanted you to sing, Sangha. Oh, we just love that. Thank you. Could you? Yeah.
If I have the music, which I think I do.
That was great. That was a beautiful song.
It's my favorite song.
And you cried the first time you sang that? You couldn't finish it. Yeah?
Many times.
Many times.
Just 1 minute.
Oh, and you said it all. Is it? Wow. You don't cry anymore singing that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll pray not to.
Let's see what happens to it. This is awesome. We cry listening to it. Thank you for it.
I think she's coming with the guitar.
She's gone in to find the music, Swami.
Swamiji, your time with the master, please tell us something about that. It's okay.
She said, please tell us something about your time with master.
I'll go check it out and come. Shall I go?
Can you do the right? You know, 2 or 3 years ago, my voice changed a whole octave. Usually when you get old, your voice goes up. Mine went down into the basement.
What does it say? You're getting younger?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Down, down, down,
Some sort of a card.
Okay, let's see. This is it. Oh, one more cake. Hold on.
Love is all I know. Sun rays on the snow of a winter long in darkness without song. Oh, my heart's a fire, burning all desire. Only you remain and life again. Too long I did stray, flung lifetimes away. Imagine you did not care. I know now your smile was mine all the while. I listened and love was there. I can't breathe for love. All the stars above call to me, come home. Life's waves all end in foam. Only love can heal all the pain I feel. What a fool was I to turn away.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, my voice is still in good shape.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Mint.
So I have a few years on me.
But the devotion in the voice is more beautiful than the shape of the voice. It's really so beautiful.
Swami, would you like to sing more, please?
Would
you give us one more? Would you sing one more song?
One more song.
One more, brothers.
Darlings.
This is beautiful.
Would you like me to sing a third song? Third song?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. When I was studying singing, studying guitar, I mean, my guitar teacher complained to me one day that your songs aren't realistic. That's not what life is. Life is dark. And so I thought, well, let me try to write a blues. But I tried, but I failed. So it's the blues.
I say
What am I doing hanging out in this cellar? It's like this. I'm composing a blues. No, it ain't the one. No, it ain't the blues, because it's only one. And brother, one's all I can do. I'm a hanging like I ought to. That's it. I got the hang of it. My chat is a case of gin. And my mouth I've drooped till like a Saint Bernard, till its corners are touching my chin. You may ask, why you feeling so blue?
Why are you feeling so blue?
Well, I ain't. I just thought I should try. Some fella said, all those songs of yours ain't for real, they don't make no one cry. So I thought, let's just find me some sinner, 'cause the only way to feel blue is forget the sun and pretend the world is as dark as a fireplace flue. Oh, that's realism, yeah. Love that gutter. I wonder if we ain't been misled. How much reality can a man see anyway when he sits all day hanging his head? Now it ain't that I don't know what grief is. This old heart has had its full share. But grief's one thing and complaining another. Why multiply grief with despair? So I'm going back to my bad old home. My time here is almost done. The fact is, fella, I can't stand that cellar. I just gotta get out in the sun. Something more serious.
Swamiji, she has a question to ask. Go ahead.
I said the times which you spent with the master.
3.5 years.
Yeah, just tell us something about those times. I mean, how it felt and.
You know, my book, The New Path, is full of stories like that. So is the autobiography of Ananda. It was wonderful for me because he had me sitting with him in his living room, talking to me, telling me stories, and talking about the past, about many things, and describing it from what he taught me those days that I understood Patanjali. And he talked about the different states of consciousness and all sorts of things. But a short and very sweet story always comes to my mind when people ask me that. He had done his interpretations of the Gita, his commentary on the Gita. And he was editing it a little bit, and I was sitting at his feet and just thinking how wonderful it was to be his disciple. And when he finished, he asked me to help him stand, and he looked at me very closely and he said, just a bout of the ocean. And he never saw himself as anything except just an extension of God. That was to me the most touching thing. And I remember one time we were out alone in the desert, and he said, of the men, only Rajarshi has not disappointed me. And you mustn't disappoint me! He spoke with great force. And I thought, better not. So I've tried not to. Yeah, I didn't think I knew he didn't mean that the men disappointed him spiritually. But men they tend to think of their own self-realization. And I wanted to help everyone. And so he wanted me to, I was the only male energy goes outward, and female energy goes inward, even as the sex organs are outward and inward. And that desire to help everybody has always been a deep part of my consciousness. So I've done my best. Any other?
Swami, we've always heard that service to humanity. What about service to animals?
She thinks we've always heard about service to humanity, people talking about it. But what about service to animals? Is that important?
That too is good. Wherever you feel the call to that. You know, everybody couldn't be a streetcar conductor. There are not enough streetcars around. So we have to have all this variety in human nature. And some feel called to do this, and others feel called to do that. Do it, however, if you want it to be dharmic, do it for Dharma. and do it to please Him. Not everybody can teach well. I am a good teacher, but that doesn't mean I'm a better devotee for being a good teacher. The fact that I do it for God, that makes me a devotee. If I just sit up there and glow, it wouldn't mean anything. Because I teach to please God and to bring people to Him. That makes it good. And anything you do it for God. If you're a cook, put your energy into it. Put your vibrations into it. Whatever your work is, do that with love for God.
Swamiji, how do we improve our meditation? Many times it happens, we are satisfied. Sometimes there's so much activity, we are running around, and then look at the time and they say, I have to sit, then I sit, or but...
I think one thing would help you is to try to think of God all the time. So everything you're doing, every few minutes, I know when I was new at Mount Washington, my mind was going in circles. I made it a plan every 15 minutes to stop down, calm my mind and think of God. That was a good thing to do. So even if you're running, pause a moment and think of God. And then deliberately offer what you're doing to God. Not just to the people who are buying from you or whatever it might be. And in that way, change doesn't come quickly, but remember how long it takes to get where you are now. Millions of lifetimes, not just a few. I read a book in which somebody said that a person was in her 85th life. Nonsense. It can take you days of Brahma. There's so many different ways of being in mind. But when you finally get the desire, you finally begin to see this is not working. I want God. When you have that desire, when you want truth, then you'll have to come back to it. You'll have to come to it. It may take many more lifetimes, but your heart will draw you. So even if you develop the desire for God, that's the most important good karma to develop. I was just remembering today, Master said that Joseph Stalin would have to spend 100,000 years just getting rid of the karma of this lifetime. That's the sort of thing people go through. But he too is gone. He too will have to find that in the end. So everything, now that I know one disciple said to Master, I don't think I have very good karma, Master. He said, remember this, it takes very, very, very good karma even to want God. And you won't have very good karma, or you wouldn't be in this room. And that's just the beginning. I asked Master once, have I been your disciple for thousands of years? He said, it's been a long time. That's all I'll say. I didn't want to think I was the only sluggard in the so I said, does it always take that long? He said, yes. Desires for this thing and that thing, they come away and they come back. But once you develop desire for God, don't let anything deter you. Once you really want Him, it's just a matter of a little time and you're out. It may not be this lifetime, but there's a beautiful story of Sri Chaitanya. He had a very dear disciple. I think his name was Nityananda, I'm not sure. Anyway, other disciples are asking when will they find freedom. And he would say this lifetime, this next lifetime, 3 more lifetimes. And Nityananda said, well, how long will it take me? He said, it'll take you 1,000,000 lives. And the disciples felt so badly for Nityananda. And later they saw him dancing on the porch outside. And they said, did you hear what the Master said? He said, yes, come dance with me, my brothers. Didn't you hear him promise that I will find God? And that's the important thing. Don't worry when. When you've overcome that, what happened in this case was, Chaitanya said, I only wanted people to know what my devotees are, my true devotees. And he touched them and found God right then. So, patience is the fastest path to God. When you're completely patient, He will come to you. After all, you have to go beyond time to find it.
how do we handle the obstacles that come in the spiritual path through possibly other people?
There are many obstacles. Some are physical, mental, emotional, all kinds of obstacles. They're all our past karma. But don't worry about your past karma. If you love God, you'll overcome it. I know that Sarada Devi, the wife of Ramakrishna, she said that if you really love God, it may be your karma to lose a leg, and you just get a scratch. The karma has to come. It will be offset by the strength of the aura that you put around yourself. And at Jivan Mukta, there's no ego to be hidden anymore. So it's like, it may be your karma for a refrigerator to land on your head, but he's moved away, so it lands on the ground. There's no ego there. So it takes time, but I've had lots of little tests myself, physical tests and so on, but I've just say, it doesn't matter, I'll keep going. And so here I am.
I have a question. How to know whether that obstacle is actually a karmic effect or a freshly created effect?
How do you know whether the obstacle presented before you is a karmic effect or something that you've recently done which has caused it, a present?
Karma is what you've done, recent and past.
I mean, if someone else could do something freshly,
that's karma too.
That is what he has done.
The nice thing about it is the freer you become, the more quickly you pay off that karma. So that there's so many obstacles to your karma that you may murder somebody. It may be 10 lifetimes from now that you get murdered back. But if you really are free in your heart and you don't have much weight of karma, that murder may come quickly and it may not touch you because you've become a devotee. So you pay off the karma, but it doesn't have to, it's not a fixed and firm rule. And your willpower has a lot to do with it. You may have many tests, but if you have strong willpower, you can overcome all of them. I mean, when they threw me out of SRF, that was a very big test for me. Because my entire life was dedicated to serving Master through SRF. And I was called, I had believed that I was serving him, and it got the board of directors angry. Selfishness and jealousy, but I didn't know that. They called me to New York, and without anything, without warning, without anything, suddenly they threw me out into the streets. I had no money, I had no friends. New York was 3,500 miles away from Los Angeles, where our work was. I was really in a desperate situation. That same day, my parents landed from Europe in New York, and they took me in their car to their home in California. So God takes care of His own. If you love Him, He will take care of you no matter how many. But there were times, that was a very big test for me. There were days when I would sit there looking at the ceiling, just praying to be allowed to die. It was a long time because I didn't want to offend them. I didn't want to revenge on them. I didn't want to work against them. But I had to do something to serve Him. And I didn't know how. And I just didn't. But anyway, here you are because of that. So I'm glad for that tapasya. That's what it became.
When you say, I didn't know you could have fooled us after writing so many books and music and creating Ananda.
But you know one thing, the month before they threw me out, I had read an article in Span magazine, that's the American USIS information magazine in India. And it talked about how modern philosophy was so completely without values, everything is relative, there are no truths anywhere, etc., etc. And I thought, I know enough, I'd love to be able to write a book in answer to this. And in SRF, I would never have been given the chance to write. Had I written, it would never have been published. And now I was free. So I spent a long time going to the library. It was a big test because I didn't like to put myself in their shoes. But I had to reason their way. I couldn't just say it's wrong. I had to show how their own thinking was wrong. So I had to put myself in their shoes. And anyway, that's what the book, what is it called?
Out of the Labyrinth.
Out of the Labyrinth. That's in a way a very good book. But it was blood, sweat and tears that wrote that book.
And thank you for making this whole journey so very fun, Swami. You know, the book, the new part, I mean, you can put Tom Brown's school days to shame. Yeah. It is so very fun, yeah, the anecdotes and all this school.
Really,
it's just
life
great,
is joy.
Yeah.
Life is joy. Even when they threw me out and I was miserable, people would try to get me to lecture, and I didn't feel like lecturing. But I thought, well, I'm not getting any other guidance, so let's see what happens if I do. And I would be miserable, but everybody, what they felt from me was joy. Joy? Anyway, I feel
Swamiji, please give us tips on how to increase your willpower.
Give us some tips on how to increase our willpower.
Well, if you see something difficult, just say, I'm going to try. A little step, and suddenly you're there. So it takes willpower, and it takes also willpower. I won't do this, it's not right. I didn't have an easy childhood because I was too strong in what I believed, but I still believe in it, and that's fine. People will be against you if you believe in certain things. They want you to be so lollipop. But if you really are sincere, you will find that God will be on your side. And that's the beautiful thing. You know, we think our own thoughts. We don't think them. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda said thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. The thoughts you think are not thoughts you create. Your brain is only a transmitting station for thoughts that are around you. And depending on the level of consciousness that you're on, if that level were to sink to a low level, you'd be wanting drink and drugs and all those things. When you raise it, then you get out of moods and everything. So your willpower should be about raising your consciousness. I remember once when I was very new as a disciple, I fell into a deep mood, and I couldn't get out of it, and I tried to reason my way. Reason won't show you the way. Reason always goes with feeling, and supports feeling. And so I say, this isn't working, what do we do? I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and put my mind here. 5 minutes is all it took. And I suddenly saw everything in a new light. So change your level of consciousness, everything will be.
How do you answer a difficult question? How do you answer a difficult question?
How do you answer a difficult question?
Well, I have brains.
But devotee's question.
Usually, as I said earlier, any doubt that anybody can have, I've had.
Swami, it's sometimes so easy and so very fun to relate to something out there. We cannot see usually, I mean, the astral world. Sometimes it happens, I mean, many times, and now I thought it could be delusional, but you know, sometimes people, great souls have passed away maybe, yeah? Is it okay? Yeah.
I'm waiting for the question.
Okay, now, do you want me to continue, please? Would you like me to? Yeah? Okay. It's easy to, is it okay to connect to something nice and good and powerful in the astral? Is it alright?
Depends on how you do
it. Okay.
Some people delude themselves.
How do you?
No. Be careful in that respect. There are many entities out there that are interested in making fun of you. So don't think that, mind you, when you die, you're not going to spend all your time wanting to worry about what people are thinking here. You're going to be in another world. You'll have better things to do. So not everybody who comes to you in a seance or something is telling the truth. So don't play with editing too much. Use your common sense.
Okay.
How can I know my past lives?
It may not, I think if you need to know your past life, then it may be given to you in meditation. I've come to remember certain things about my past, and it's been helpful. But mostly you're in this life, why does God draw that veil between lives? Why do you forget the past? Because you have a job to do. I've read many books on reincarnation and so on. They always talk about, well, you're born here because you have a job to do. The job you've got to do is quite simple. You have to get rid of your ego. You have to get rid of all desires. As long as you want something of this world that the astral world can't give you, you'll have to come back here. It's quite that simple. So get rid of your desires. And if you want a car or a good smoke, they don't have them there. So minimize your desires. The Patanjali says, when you have overcome all attachment, then even to the body, then you can remember your past life better. Then you begin to remember. That's not an easy question to answer.
Past life regressions people do, is it?
Yeah, but I don't trust all of it. I think Brian Weiss did a good job. I know many people who are studying his method don't do a good job. And I would, don't play with it. You attract wrong things with that. Deal with the common present right now, with what you have to do to overcome to reach God. He had a reason for hiding these things from you. Sometimes there's a reason for your finding out. And sometimes children are born with memory. You know, it was a funny thing. When I was 7 years old, my parents criticized something I had written. You know, as children do. I said, and this, and this, and this. And I knew they were right. But in my mind there was this thought, who is anyone to tell me how to write? That means I must have been a writer before. Those kinds of memories, especially in a child's first 7 years, he shows his memories of the past. Okay, enough of that. That's not a deep question. Yeah.
Swamiji, tell us anything about your meeting with Ananda.
She was very dear to me. She was like my mother. I spent a long time with her. I felt great devotion for her. I had my guru, and I loved him as my guru, because he was my mother, and I couldn't help that. But I spent a lot of time with her. One time I was with her in Congo, here in Haridwar, and people, by the way, say Haridwar, but it's Hara. The mountains are the Himalayas. Shiva. There should be Haridwar. Anyway, that's by the I had a train to catch back to Delhi, and she said, all right, now leave. Finally I said to her, I can't leave until you, as long as you're in front of me, I can't leave you. So then she went inside and I ran, and the train was held. I suspect she held the train for me, because the moment I stepped onto it, it took off. But she, and this is a puzzle that I've never understood. One time she said, what would you say if I asked you to stay here? I said, I couldn't do it. I have my guru, I'm loyal to you. But she was that dear to me.
Swami, what do you think about twin souls?
What, who's talking?
Twin souls.
What?
Twin soul.
Twin souls.
Well, I think they exist. You know, everything in nature is dual. You have electrons, and science has found that all of them have twins. And the twin may be far away, but as the twin moves, this one moves. There's a whole thing that they found out about that. It makes sense because everything is like that. Everything is dual. And so for everything there is its opposite. It seems to me that must be.
Have you met yours?
I think so. Yeah.
How do you know when you meet?
What?
How do you know when you meet? How do you
I
know?
don't know. I don't like to know.
I was wondering if we could so go back to some more music. And maybe no more. Okay.
Swamiji, how can we get rid of negative thoughts? Like sometimes, you know, even if we do not want, sometimes there are thoughts of jealousy, competitiveness, and it's very natural that people have it. How do we like first trace them, and how do we avoid them altogether?
If you get rid of the ego, then you avoid it. But what I've always thought is the best is to pray to God. Ask Him to really heal this. It's just karma from the past. We have to overcome it. We have to overcome every karma. I asked Pastor once, what about a desire for something as simple as an ice cream cone? Well, yes. Do we have to get rid of every desire? Even for an ice cream cone? That's no joke. But he said to me once, when I asked him to help me to overcome the enjoyment of good food, he said, don't worry about it. When ecstasy comes, everything will go. So that's what I'm hanging on to. It's 6:30. Maybe we should call it quits?
Thank you, Swamiji.
Time for one more question. Only one.
2012 will pass up smoothly, Swamiji.
What?
Will we pass through 2012 smoothly?
I'm wondering too. No.